Right now, there are 47 underwater drug caches sitting off the coast of Florida, waiting to be recovered. The DEA knows where 12 of them are. Cartels have lost track of 23. And the rest? They're ticking time bombs for anyone unlucky enough to stumble into them. What you're about to hear isn't just one fisherman's nightmare. It's a system designed to turn innocent people into criminals in under 3 minutes. His hands were shaking so hard he couldn't tie the waterproof bag shut. $20 million in vacuum-sealed bundles, glowing faintly in his flashlight beam like some kind of cursed treasure. Miguel had been fishing these waters for 19 years. But the ocean had just shown him something new. Proof that his entire life had been happening inches above a war he never knew existed. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deeper, drop your location in the comments. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button because we tell stories most channels won't touch. Stories about the hidden machinery of power, about impossible choices, about what really happens when ordinary people collide with systems designed to destroy them. You think you know what you do in an impossible situation. You don't. None of us do. Here's what nobody's telling you. The real crime isn't taking the money or reporting it. It's the illusion that you ever had a choice. This video isn't about right and wrong. It's about the machinery that crushes people between them. Miguel Reyes was 42 years old, father of 3. His youngest daughter, Sophia, had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition 6 months earlier. The surgery she needed wasn't covered by insurance. He'd already taken out 2 loans he couldn't afford. His fishing boat was 28 years old and falling apart. He'd been working 16-hour days, 7 days a week, and still couldn't keep up. Miguel wasn't some criminal looking for an opportunity. He was drowning in the slow-motion way that working-class people drown in America. One medical bill at a time. It was 3:17 in the morning when his net caught something heavy. He'd been out since midnight, working the deep waters about 40 miles off Miami. This was illegal, technically. He didn't have a permit for this zone. But the legal zones had been overfished to nothing, and he had 3 kids and a wife who'd stopped asking him how they were going to make it. The weight felt wrong immediately. Not fish, but something dense and deliberate. His first thought was a body. His second thought was drugs. His third thought was that he needed to cut the net loose and get out of there. But he didn't. He pulled up that net because human beings are curious in ways that override survival instinct. Because 28 years of following rules had gotten him exactly nowhere. Because some dark part of his brain had already done the math, and that math included Sophia's surgery, his boat's repairs, maybe even a few months where his wife could smile at him without that look of quiet terror. Inside the bag were vacuum-sealed bundles of $100 bills. Clean, sequential. Still wrapped in bank bands. He counted 3 bundles. Each had to be at least $200,000. And there were dozens of bundles in the bag. Maybe hundreds. His first emotion wasn't greed. It was terror. Pure, animal terror. Because his brain understood something his conscious mind was still processing. This money had an owner who wasn't the kind of person who filed insurance claims when things went missing. His second emotion was vertigo. Like the ocean had suddenly revealed itself to be hollow underneath. The drug trade uses these waters as highways. Miguel had been casting nets into a war zone for 2 decades and never knew it. His third emotion was hope. Desperate, ravenous, completely unreasonable hope. His brain started calculating immediately. If I take just enough to cover Sophia's surgery, if I leave the rest, if I report it anonymously. His brain was negotiating with a reality that doesn't negotiate. But here's what Miguel didn't know. $20 million underwater isn't lost. It's a tracking device. 47 miles away, in a monitoring station that doesn't officially exist, someone's computer had just registered an anomaly. The GPS trackers embedded in those currency bundles had just changed depth. They'd gone from 60 feet below the surface to sea level. Which meant someone had found them. Which meant the trap had just sprung. Here's how this works. The DEA doesn't interdict every drug shipment. What they do instead is something much more sophisticated and much more terrifying. They let certain shipments through. They track them. They watch who touches them. They let the small fish think they got away with it. And then, when they've mapped the entire network, they roll everyone up at once. These underwater caches aren't accidents. They're strategic losses. Controlled burns. The cartels rig the money with trackers. They monitor who finds it. Every action creates data. And data maps networks. Miguel didn't know any of this. He thought he was alone in the dark with a choice only he would ever know about. But he was being watched from 3 different directions. He stared at that money for 40 minutes. Then he made his first real mistake. He moved the bag into his boat's holding tank. Not to take it, just to hide it while he figured out what to do. That's what he told himself. I'm not committing. I'm just buying time. But the GPS trackers registered the movement. The system had already pulled his file. Financial status, critical. 3 dependents. Medical debt approaching 6 figures. Behavioral prediction, high cooperation potential, minimal network value, optimal target for low-level prosecution. Miguel didn't know he'd just been categorized. He thought he was still thinking. But his option window had already closed. Think about what just happened. Miguel touched money and became data. His entire life was reduced to a risk assessment profile in less time than it takes to boil water. This is what I mean by machinery. Miguel thought he was having a human experience. The system was having a data experience. He spent the next hour talking to himself. Literally talking out loud. I could take just enough for the surgery. Or I could report it. Anonymous tip. But then they'll track my boat. They'll think I took some. Or I could leave it. Throw it back. But I've already touched it. My fingerprints are on it. This is what impossible choices do to human minds. They create loops. Paralysis. Your brain tries to calculate an outcome where you don't lose, but every path leads to loss. At 5:42 in the morning, Miguel made a decision. He was going to call a lawyer. Not the police. A lawyer first. Someone who could tell him what his rights were. He found one whose website said he specialized in fishermen's rights. He would call at 9 when the office opened. At 6:15, a Coast Guard vessel appeared on his radar. So fast, Miguel's heart rate doubled. They were polite. Said they'd received reports of unusual activity. Could they come aboard? They found the bag in 11 minutes. One of the officers went straight to the holding tank like he knew exactly where to look. Which of course he did. Because the GPS signal was broadcasting from inside Miguel's boat. Miguel started explaining immediately. I just found it. I was about to report it. I was going to call a lawyer. I didn't take any. I have kids. I have a sick daughter. I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was just scared. The officer let him talk. When Miguel finally stopped, the officer said we need to call this in. Miguel said of course. The officer said we're going to need you to come with us. Miguel said okay. Where are we going? The officer said federal holding, probably. Miguel said the DEA? Why are you taking me there? I'm not a drug dealer. I'm a fisherman. The officer said you moved it. You concealed it. You waited 5 hours to report it. That's not finding something. That's possession with intent. They confiscated his boat. His phone. His wallet. They didn't handcuff him, which somehow made it worse. This is the moment where Miguel realized something. The story he thought he was living in, the one where a good man makes one mistake under pressure and gets a chance to explain himself, that story doesn't exist in the criminal justice system. The system doesn't process stories. It processes evidence. Miguel sat in that cell for 18 hours before anyone spoke to him. No lawyer. No phone call. No charges filed. Just waiting. This is standard procedure. It's called marinating. You let someone sit alone with their fear until their fear starts making decisions their rational mind wouldn't make. When the DEA agent finally walked in, Miguel's first words were, "I didn't do anything wrong." The agent slid a photograph across the table. An aerial view of Miguel's boat. The agent said, "This is you concealing $20 million in narcotics proceeds." Miguel said, "I was trying to hide it while I figured out what to do." The agent said, "Hide it from who?" That statement, that honest moment of fear, was logged as evidence of consciousness of guilt. Miguel knew the money was connected to dangerous people. Therefore Miguel knew he was committing a crime. In the architecture of law enforcement, your fear of criminals is proof that you're criminal adjacent. Then the agent offered him a deal. Cooperate fully. Use his boat as part of a controlled delivery operation. Agree to wear a wire if anyone contacted him. In exchange, they'd recommend minimal charges. Miguel asked what happens if I don't cooperate? The agent said you go to trial for conspiracy to traffic. You lose. You do 7 to 10 years. Your wife loses the house. Your kids go into state care. Sophia doesn't get her surgery. Miguel asked what happens if I do cooperate and the cartel finds out? The agent said we have witness protection programs. Miguel said, do those programs work? The agent didn't answer. Miguel said this isn't a choice. The agent said it's the only choice you have. And that's when Miguel understood the real crime. The crime wasn't finding the money. The crime was being in a position where finding the money could happen. The crime was being poor enough that $20 million looked like salvation instead of evidence. So what was Miguel's real crime? Exposure. Not to the money. To the invisible architecture of power that the money represented. Crime, real crime in the way it actually functions in the world, is about visibility. It's about becoming seen by systems that prefer you stay invisible. Let me break this down. When you find cartel money, you don't find money. You find debt. Debt to the people who lost it. Debt to the law that wants it. The moment Miguel touched that bag, he inherited everyone who'd touched it before him. All of their intentions, all of their plans, all of their violence transferred to Miguel like a virus. Miguel's mistake wasn't greed. His mistake was thinking discovery gave him ownership of his next choice. But those GPS trackers weren't just broadcasting Miguel's location. They were broadcasting his fate. The moment that bag broke the surface, Miguel's future was already being written. Good people believe rules protect them. But rules are designed to process you, not protect you. Rules are the language power uses to justify doing what it was always going to do anyway. Miguel had 4 options and every single one destroyed him. Report it immediately? Your name goes in a report that gets shared with agencies that have leaks. The cartel finds out eventually. Leave it? Your boat GPS tracked you to that exact location. You become suspicious when someone else finds it. Take it? It's being tracked. You'd last a week. Take some, report some. The bundles are numbered. That missing money becomes evidence. There was no right choice. That's the horror. The trap was set long before Miguel dropped his net. It was set by economic policies that made legal fishing unsustainable. By a drug war that uses the ocean as a battlefield. By law enforcement tactics that treat finding evidence as equivalent to creating crime. Miguel wasn't being tested for his morality. He was being processed through machinery. The agent walked Miguel through his options one more time. Cooperate or face trial. Miguel signed the cooperation agreement at hour 23. He did it because he had 3 kids and a wife and he couldn't let them lose everything. The DEA used Miguel's boat as bait for the next 3 months. They put the money back where he'd found it. They waited to see who came looking. Nobody came. The drop had been written off as seized the moment the GPS signal moved. The cartel had already adjusted their operations. After 3 months, the DEA closed the operation. They dropped most of the charges. He pled guilty to illegal fishing and failure to report. He got 2 years probation. His boat was sold at auction to cover legal fees. He's not allowed to hold a commercial fishing license anymore. He works at a warehouse now. Makes $12 an hour. Sophia got her surgery, but only because his wife's church raised money. Not because of anything Miguel did. Miguel did everything wrong and everything right and still got destroyed. Every single decision he made was simultaneously the best he could do and not good enough. Power doesn't care about your story. The DEA doesn't process explanations. It processes evidence. And evidence is just facts stripped of their humanity. Miguel said I was scared. The report said subject displayed nervous behavior consistent with consciousness of guilt. Every human thing Miguel was became a data point. This is what people mean when they talk about systemic violence. It's not that individual agents are cruel. It's that the system itself is constructed to produce certain outcomes regardless of who operates it. The process doesn't have room for kindness. It has room for efficiency, for documentation, for following established protocols. We want to believe Miguel had agency. But practically, given who he was and what he knew and what resources he had, his choices were predetermined. A rich man finding that money calls his lawyer immediately. His lawyer negotiates immunity before anyone's arrested. Miguel, working class Miguel with no lawyer and no connections, Miguel never had access to that path. His poverty made certain choices invisible to him. The machinery that crushes people between right and wrong isn't a conspiracy. It's just systems optimizing for their own continuation. The cartel optimizes for moving product. The DEA optimizes for arrests and convictions. Neither system cares about Miguel. He's not a person to them. He's a data point. Now here's where this stops being about Miguel and becomes about you. We judge Miguel because judging him is comfortable. We'd report it immediately. We'd be smarter, braver, more moral. But that's not true. That's just the story we tell ourselves. The truth is we don't know what we do. Because we've never been that desperate. Never had a daughter dying while insurance companies play games. Never worked legal jobs that don't pay enough to survive. We judge from comfort. From security. And even if we did everything right, we still might end up marked. Because doing the right thing doesn't guarantee safety when you're caught between systems that are both more powerful than you and both indifferent to your survival. So what do? What do you actually do when you're living inside someone else's trap? First principle. Recognize when you're inside a system, not a story. When something extraordinary happens, your first instinct is to narrativize it. Stop, you're not the protagonist. You're data in someone else's operation. Ask yourself, who else knows about this? Who benefits from me not knowing they know? What am I assuming is private that's actually tracked? Before you touch anything, assume you're being watched. Second principle. Fear is information, not weakness. Miguel's biggest mistake was ignoring the fear that screamed this doesn't make sense. That primal fear is your oldest brain detecting predators. When something feels too good, that feeling is data. Listen to it. Third principle. Document everything. Miguel's biggest vulnerability was silence. No record of his thinking. When systems come for you, they control the timeline. The second something extraordinary happens, voice record your thoughts. Date, time, location, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. That recording is the only thing that can compete with the system's interpretation. Fourth principle. Your life isn't a negotiation. Know your line. Miguel thought he could bargain his way out. But power doesn't negotiate with people it's already categorized as expendable. Know, before the moment comes, what you will and won't do. Not so you'll be safe, but so you'll still recognize yourself after. Miguel's story is terrifying because it's ordinary. He wasn't special. He was just a person trying to survive in a world designed to make survival conditional on things he couldn't control. What I hope you take from this is clarity. Clarity that morality isn't a shield. That law isn't justice. That rules don't protect you, they process you. And your only defense is seeing the machinery before it sees you. Miguel didn't lose because he was weak or greedy or stupid. He lost because he was human, which means he was hopeful, which means he was vulnerable. And in a world run by systems that see hope as exploitable weakness, being human is dangerous. You're not broken because impossible choices scare you. You're awake. Fear of the trap means you see the trap. And seeing it is the only thing that gives you a chance to avoid it. Don't let this story make you cynical. Let it make you careful. Let it make you someone who questions fortune. Who documents fear. Who knows their line before they're tested. Let it make you someone who doesn't blame Miguel. Because blaming him means believing you'd be different. The machinery is still out there. Still turning people into problems. Still offering tests disguised as opportunities. Miguel's story isn't unique. It's just one of the visible ones. So stay awake. Stay careful. Question everything that feels too good. Trust your fear. Document your truth. Know your line. And remember that the scariest thing you can find isn't money or drugs or evidence of evil. It's proof that your life was never as much yours as you thought it was. If this story hit you, hit that like button. Subscribe because we're building a community that refuses comfortable lies in favor of uncomfortable truths. Drop a comment and tell me what this brought up for you. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for staying till the end. Thank you for being willing to sit with uncomfortable truth. Stay awake. Stay careful. Know your line. And remember, you're not broken because impossible choices scare you. You're awake. And being awake in a world full of invisible traps might be the only thing that saves you when your turn comes. Watch the water. Question the fortune. And never assume you're alone when you find something that doesn't belong to you. Because you're not alone. You're being watched. See you in the next story.